I only have a couple more, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you again, you and your fellow commissioners, for agreeing to do a public auction on the C-band. If you back out the $5 billion that we're paying for relocation expenses, excuse me, and the $10 billion that we're paying on top of that, how much do you think taxpayers will net from the licensing of the C-band?
It's difficult to say. We've heard estimates as high as $50 billion for the overall auction once it's said and done. And so
Would that be net?
That's my understanding. Net, I guess 50 minus 15, so 35 would be the net in that situation.
Can that money be used for C-band? Excuse me, for broadband?
Absolutely, Senator. It could be. With legislation. We are, as Senator Coons' question illuminated, we're required to put it in the Treasury, but if you change that law, then it can be devoted to that purpose.
Okay. Now, the original proposal by the foreign satellite companies, which formed an alliance called the C-band Alliance, was to seek permission from the FCC for them to conduct the auction and allocate the C-band and allow them, the foreign satellite companies, to keep the proceeds of the auction. Is that correct?
Yes, a private sale in which, they would handle that process.
And it was clear to me at one point the FCC was inclined to go along with it. Is that accurate?
No, not from my perspective. I never said anything publicly one way or the other about how the FCC...
You may not have, but I believe, let me just state as a matter of fact, that a fact of my belief, I think the FCC was this close to doing it. But you didn't, and I thank you for that. As a result, and some FCC commissioners made public statements saying we're going to do this. And by this, I mean the private auction. As a result, one of the foreign satellite companies, I think it would be accurate to call it the lead dog, Intelsat, its stock went through the roof. I mean, it went through the roof, and I'm happy for it. On November the 5th, 2019, the CEO of Intelsat met with one of your senior lawyers. December 5th, 2019. According to a lawsuit later that day, two of the biggest Intelsat shareholders sold $246 million of their own stock. Shortly thereafter, the FCC announced that it was going to conduct a public auction, not a broadband auction, not a private auction. And the price of Intelsat stock dropped more than 75%. From like $25 to $6. What happened in that meeting at the FCC on November 5th?
I'm informed that the company was very keen to get a sense from the FCC as to which direction it was heading, private sale, public auction, something else. And the FCC, the staffer you mentioned, as well as another staffer, declined to state a position one way or the other. And that was it. They did not give any forecast as to where the FCC was heading.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Are those two staffers still working for the FCC?
They are, yes.
Okay.
With great distinction, I would add.
Okay. I think I would like to ask them to come and let us talk about what happened in that meeting. Something happened in that meeting. I'm not saying what it is, but when you meet with a CEO, and the CEO, and then the two biggest shareholders of the company of the CEO sell a massive amount of their stock. Maybe it's just a coincidence. I'm not saying it is or it isn't. But a massive lawsuit has been filed. And I'd like to know more about what happened in that meeting. Senator Coons.
No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
I want to give you a breather, Mr. Chairman, because I know how busy you are, but at some point, I would like to ask you and your colleagues to come back and let's talk about the prison cell phones and what we can do about it. Let's talk about the issue raised by Senator Manchin and others. And if you wouldn't mind making available your lawyers who were in that meeting, we can probably all do this in one meeting, one hearing. And again, I want to thank you for your leadership, and I mean that. You're a very talented individual, and we're lucky to have you in government. If there are no further questions, Andy says I have to read this. The hearing record will remain open until next Tuesday for subcommittee members to submit any statements or questions to the witnesses for the record. The subcommittee stands in recess, subject to the call of the chair. Thanks again, AG.